They say flying commercial jets is all about managing turbulence, but nobody warned me that marriage could hit harder air pockets than anything I'd ever encountered at 35,000 feet. My name is Jacob Hawthorne, and after 23 years of piloting Boeing 737s for Midwest Regional Airlines, I thought I'd seen every kind of storm. I was wrong. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The first sign of trouble came on a Tuesday evening in October. I'd just finished a grueling 3-day rotation, Chicago to Denver, Denver to Phoenix, Phoenix back to Chicago, and all I wanted was Monica's famous lasagna and maybe catch the Cubs game on replay. And instead, I walked into our split-level ranch house in Elmwood Heights to find my wife of 18 years standing in our kitchen, cell phone pressed to her ear, whispering like she was planning a CIA operation. "I have to go," she said quickly when she saw me, ending the call with suspicious haste. "Jake, you're home early." "Flight got in ahead of schedule," I replied, dropping my flight bag by the door. "Tailwinds over Iowa. Who was that?" "Oh, just Sarah from the office. You know how she gets about the Henderson listing." Monica worked as a realtor for Premier Properties, one of those mid-tier agencies that specialized in suburban dream homes for families like ours. She'd been doing well lately, really well. New designer handbags appeared weekly, her Honda Accord got traded for a loaded BMW X3, and she'd started getting her nails done at that expensive salon downtown instead of the strip mall place she'd used for years. "Must be some listing," I said, noting how she wouldn't quite meet my eyes. "Sarah's got you working nights now." "The market's competitive, Jake. You know that. I can't just punch a time clock like some people." That stung. Monica had always resented my schedule. Gone for days, then home for stretches. She called it feast or famine and complained that other husbands had normal jobs with normal hours. But the pay was good, the benefits solid, and flying was the only thing I'd ever been truly great at. Over the next few weeks, Monica's behavior got stranger. She started scheduling client meetings that ran until 10 or 11 at night. Her phone buzzed constantly with texts she'd quickly hide. She bought new lingerie, expensive stuff from Victoria's Secret, but our bedroom had turned into something resembling a demilitarized zone. "We should plan a vacation," I suggested one evening as she rushed around getting ready for another emergency showing. "Can't right now, Jake. I'm working on something big, really big. This could change everything for us." "What kind of listing requires you to work 7 days a week?" She paused in applying lipstick, a shade I'd never seen before, deep red and sultry. "It's complicated. Commercial property. The client has specific needs." "Commercial? Since when do you handle commercial real estate?" "Since I decided to expand my horizons instead of staying stuck in the same routine forever." Another dig. Monica had been throwing those around a lot lately, little verbal jabs about my limited ambitions and small-town mentality. Coming from a woman who'd never lived anywhere but suburban Illinois, it felt particularly rich. The breaking point came on a Thursday in November. I'd been scheduled for a San Antonio run, but mechanical issues grounded us in Chicago. Instead of the usual hotel night, I drove home, planning to surprise Monica with takeout from Giuseppe's, her favorite Italian place. The house was dark when I pulled into our driveway at 9:30 p.m., and Monica's BMW wasn't in the garage. I called her cell. "Jake, what's wrong? Is everything okay?" "I'm home. Flight got canceled. Where are you?" A pause. Too long. I'm stuck in traffic. Client meeting ran late. I'll be home soon." "Which client? Maybe I can pick you up." No need. I'm already on my way. See you soon." She hung up before I could respond. I sat in our kitchen, eating cold Giuseppe's directly from the containers, waiting. At 11:45, I heard the garage door. Monica came in, looking flustered, her hair slightly mussed, makeup smudged. "Traffic was murder," she said, not looking at me. "I'm exhausted. Going straight to bed." "Monica, wait. We need to talk." "Not tonight, Jake. Please. I'm tired." She disappeared upstairs. I cleaned up the takeout containers and tried to make sense of what was happening to my marriage. That's when I remembered the Find My iPhone feature we'd set up years ago for emergencies. I pulled out my phone and opened the app. Monica's location history showed she'd spent the evening not stuck in traffic, but parked at the Sunset Pines Motel on Route 47, a place with a reputation so sleazy that even truckers made jokes about it. I stared at that little blue dot on my phone screen for a long time. Then I opened my text messages and typed, "Thanks for letting me know about the traffic. I'll make sure to let his wife know how helpful you've been with her husband's specific needs." I hit send and waited. Upstairs, I heard Monica's phone buzz, then buzz again, then start ringing. I turned off my phone and went to bed in the guest room. For the first time in months, I slept like a baby. The next morning, Monica was gone before I woke up. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. "We need to talk. Don't do anything stupid, please." Too late for that, sweetheart. I'd already done the stupidest thing possible. I'd trusted her. I called my old flying buddy, Paul Sullivan, who everyone called Sully. He'd retired from the airlines 2 years earlier and spent his time restoring classic cars and dispensing unsolicited advice about everything from carburetors to marriage. "Jake, how's life in the friendly skies?" "Sully, I need a favor, and maybe some backup." "Uh-oh, this about Monica?" I filled him in on the motel situation. Sully listened without interruption, which was unusual for him. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "You want to catch her in the act?" "I want proof, real proof, the kind that holds up in divorce court." "Meet me at Denny's in an hour. And Jake, bring cash. We're going shopping." Sully's idea of shopping involved a trip to Best Buy for a digital camera with a telephoto lens, followed by a stop at Radio Shack for what he called basic surveillance equipment. By noon, we were parked across from the Sunset Pines Motel in Sully's restored 1987 Buick Regal, which had tinted windows and the kind of anonymous look that screamed, "Nothing to see here." "This feels ridiculous," I said, adjusting the camera settings. "Marriage is ridiculous, Jake. This is just documentation." The motel manager was a weathered woman named Maggie who looked like she'd seen everything twice and wasn't impressed by any of it. When I approached the office with a story about my cheating business partner, she just laughed. "Honey, you wouldn't believe the stuff people do here. Your partner wouldn't be the first to mix business with pleasure. What's he look like?" I described Monica instead, figuring she'd be more memorable. Maggie's eyes lit up with recognition. "Oh, her. Yeah, she's been coming around. Always with the same guy, tall, dark hair, drives a black Cadillac Escalade. They get room 208 every time. Real creatures of habit." "Any chance you've got security cameras?" Maggie's grin turned predatory. "Honey, I've got cameras that would make the FBI jealous. But accessing footage costs extra. Privacy concerns, you understand?" $200 later, I was watching grainy but unmistakable video of Monica walking arm in arm with a man I didn't recognize. The timestamp showed last Tuesday, the same night she'd claimed to be working late with Sarah from the office. In the video, Monica was wearing the red dress I'd bought her for our anniversary, the one she said was too fancy for Elmwood Heights. "You know this guy?" Sully asked, pointing at Monica's companion. "Never seen him before in my life. But look at his left hand." The man's wedding ring caught the motel's parking lot lights as he opened the door to room 208. Monica leaned in to kiss him before they disappeared inside. "Well," Sully said, "that's what we call a smoking gun." I copied the footage to a flash drive and paid Maggie another $50 for her discretion. As we drove away, my phone started ringing. Monica's name appeared on the screen. "You going to answer that?" Sully asked. "Not yet. I've got more shopping to do." My next stop was Premier Properties. Monica's assistant, Olivia, was a 22-year-old social media addict who treated the real estate office like her personal gossip headquarters. She knew everything about everyone and had the discretion of a town crier. "Mr. Hawthorne, Monica's not here. She's at a showing." "That's okay, Olivia. I just wanted to surprise her with lunch later. Any idea when she'll be back?" Olivia's face lit up. She loved being included in romantic gestures, even fictional ones. "Oh, that's so sweet. She should be back around 3. She's been working so hard lately on that big commercial deal. The client is super demanding, wants to see properties at all hours. Monica says he's very hands-on." "Hands-on?" "You know, involved in every detail. Monica showed me his picture. He's really handsome, like movie star handsome. She jokes that if she weren't married..." Olivia giggled and covered her mouth. "I probably shouldn't have said that." "Don't worry about it. Monica's always had an eye for attractive people. That's why she married me, right?" Olivia laughed politely, but her expression suggested she wasn't entirely convinced. "This client," I continued casually, "does he have a name?" "Ethan something. Grant, I think. He owns that new fitness center downtown. You know, the fancy one with the rock-climbing wall?" "Ethan Grant." Now I had a name to go with the face. And if he owned Grant's Fitness, finding his personal information wouldn't be difficult. My phone buzzed with another text from Monica. "Jake, please call me. We can work this out." I showed the message to Sully, who was waiting in the parking lot. "You going to respond?" "Oh, I'm going to respond, just not the way she expects." That evening, I did something I'd never done in 18 years of marriage. I hired a private investigator. Her name was Carmen Rodriguez, a former Chicago PD detective who specialized in matrimonial cases. Her office was in a strip mall between a tax preparation service and a dry cleaner, but her credentials were impressive. "Cheating spouse?" she asked after I'd explained the situation. "Cheating spouse with a cheating spouse. The guy's married too." Carmen nodded. "Those are always messier. Double the drama, double the fallout. You want documentation for divorce proceedings?" "I want everything. Financial records, timeline, the whole story, and I want to know about Ethan Grant's situation. If I'm going down, I want to make sure everyone pays the same price." "That'll cost extra." "Money's not an issue." Carmen smiled. "Famous last words, Mr. Hawthorne, but I like your style. Give me a week." When I got home, Monica was waiting in the kitchen. She looked like she'd been crying, but with Monica, you could never be sure if the tears were real or strategic. "Jake, we need to talk." "Do we? Because I thought you were too busy with traffic jams and client meetings. Please, just listen to me." "I'm listening." She took a deep breath. "I've made some mistakes, but it's not what you think." "What do I think, Monica?" "I don't know. But whatever it is, you're wrong. This is about business, about our future." "Our future?" "Yes. Ethan is helping me get into commercial real estate. It's a huge opportunity, Jake. We could finally have the life we've always wanted." "The life we've always wanted, or the life you've always wanted? What's that supposed to mean?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the photo I'd taken from Maggie's security footage. Monica's face went white. "Where did you get that?" "Does it matter?" "Jake, I can explain." "I'm sure you can. You've always been good with explanations. But here's the thing, Monica. I don't want to hear them anymore." I walked toward the stairs, then turned back. "Oh, and Monica, you might want to call Ethan. Let him know his wife might be getting some interesting information very soon." Monica's sharp intake of breath followed me up the stairs. For the first time in months, I felt like I was flying in clear skies. Carmen Rodriguez worked fast. By the following Wednesday, she'd compiled a dossier on Ethan Grant that read like a case study in midlife crisis cliches. 48 years old, married to Lena Grant for 15 years, 2 teenage kids, owner of 3 fitness centers in the Chicago suburbs. His business was successful, but not successful enough to support his lifestyle. The Escalade was leased, his house was mortgaged to the hilt, and he was behind on payments for the boat he'd bought last summer. More interesting was what Carmen had discovered about Monica's recent financial activity. My wife had been using the company credit card for personal expenses, hotel rooms, expensive dinners, lingerie purchases. She'd also opened a separate checking account that I knew nothing about, funded by commission checks she'd been diverting from our joint account. "Your wife's been planning this for a while," Carmen said, spreading the documents across her desk. "The separate account goes back 6 months. The credit card abuse started around the same time." "What about Ethan's wife?" "Lena Grant is a high school principal. Clean record, solid reputation, no idea what her husband's been up to. But here's the interesting part. She's got family money. Her father owns a chain of auto dealerships, the house, the cars, the kids' private school tuition. That's all coming from her side. So if she divorces him, he loses everything. And based on Illinois law, adultery is still grounds for fault-based divorce. She could take him to the cleaners." I studied the photographs Carmen had taken of Monica and Ethan entering and leaving various hotels around the Chicago area. They looked happy, carefree, like they didn't have a worry in the world. That was about to change. "I want you to compile everything into a comprehensive report," I told Carmen. 2 copies. One for me, one for Lena Grant." "You sure about that? Once you light this fuse, there's no putting it out." "I'm sure." That afternoon, I drove to Lincoln High School, where Lena Grant worked as principal. The secretary directed me to her office, where I found a woman who looked nothing like what I'd expected. Instead of the dowdy educator stereotype, Lena was sharp-dressed and sharp-eyed, with the kind of presence that probably kept teenage troublemakers in line without much effort. "Mr. Hawthorne, I understand you wanted to speak with me about my husband. Mrs. Grant, what I'm about to show you is going to be difficult, but I thought you had a right to know." I handed her Carmen's report. Lena opened the folder and began reading with the methodical attention of someone accustomed to reviewing disciplinary files. Her expression didn't change as she examined the photographs, the hotel receipts, the timeline of the affair. Finally, she closed the folder and looked at me directly. "How long have you known?" "About 2 weeks. I hired the investigator to make sure I had all the facts." "And your wife? Does she know you're here?" "Not yet." Lena nodded slowly. "Mr. Hawthorne, I want to thank you for bringing this to my attention. Many people would have chosen to handle this differently. I believe in doing things the right way." "So do I." She stood and extended her hand. "You'll be hearing from my attorney within the week. I assume you'll be filing for divorce as well?" "Yes, ma'am." "Good. Perhaps we can coordinate our efforts. After all, we have common interests now." As I left the school, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. A sense of control. For too long, I'd been a passenger in my own life, letting Monica make the decisions while I focused on work. Now I was back in the pilot's seat. That evening, Monica came home to find me sitting at the kitchen table with divorce papers spread in front of me. "Jake, what is this?" "Your exit strategy. I'm just helping you execute it." "You can't be serious." "Absolutely serious. You wanted a new life with Ethan? Congratulations. You're about to get it." Monica's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID and her face went pale. "Aren't you going to answer that?" I asked. "It might be important." She declined the call, but it immediately started ringing again. "That's probably Ethan," I continued conversationally. "I imagine his wife had some interesting questions for him when he got home tonight." "What did you do?" "What you should have done months ago. I told the truth." Monica's phone rang a third time. This time she answered. "Ethan, I can't talk right now." "What do you mean she knows? How could she possibly—" "Oh, God." She hung up and stared at me with something approaching hatred. "You destroyed everything." "No, Monica, you destroyed everything. I just documented it." The next few days were a masterclass in watching someone's carefully constructed lies collapse. Monica tried damage control, calling her friends and family with her version of events, but Carmen had been thorough. The evidence was overwhelming, and Monica's reputation in our small community began to crumble. Her boss at Premier Properties called an emergency meeting after discovering the credit card abuse. Monica was suspended pending investigation. Her clients were reassigned to other agents. The BMW was repossessed when she couldn't make the payments without access to the diverted commission checks. Ethan's situation was even worse. Lena filed for divorce and froze their joint accounts. Without her family's financial support, his fitness centers began struggling to meet their obligations. The local newspaper, always hungry for scandal, ran a story about the prominent local businessman, whose marriage had ended amid allegations of financial impropriety and adultery. But Monica wasn't finished fighting. She hired a lawyer, a slick downtown attorney named Richard Brennan who specialized in high-conflict divorce cases. Brennan's strategy was to paint me as a controlling husband who had driven Monica into the arms of another man through neglect and emotional abuse. "My client is a victim of a marriage that had been emotionally empty for years," Brennan announced at our first mediation session. Mr. Hawthorne's obsession with his career left Mrs. Hawthorne feeling isolated and unloved. Her relationship with Mr. Grant began as a professional mentorship and evolved into something deeper because she wasn't receiving the support she needed at home. It was a creative narrative, I had to give him that, but Carmen had done her homework too well. The timeline of Monica's deception, the financial fraud, the elaborate lies, it all painted a picture of calculated betrayal, not victimhood. "Your Honor," my attorney responded, "Mrs. Hawthorne's actions demonstrate a pattern of premeditated deception that began months before any alleged marital problems. She systematically diverted marital assets, used company resources for personal gain, and maintained an elaborate double life. This isn't a case of a neglected wife seeking comfort. It's a case of fraud and adultery." The judge reviewed the evidence with the weary expression of someone who'd seen too many marriages implode. When he finally spoke, his words were measured but clear. "I'm going to order temporary spousal support while these proceedings continue, but given the evidence of financial misconduct, Mrs. Hawthorne's access to marital assets will be limited and supervised. This court takes a dim view of attempts to dissipate marital property through deception." Outside the courthouse, Monica confronted me in the parking lot. "You think you've won, don't you?" "This isn't about winning, Monica. It's about consequences." "You're going to regret this, Jake. I promise you that." She stormed off toward Brennan's Mercedes, leaving me standing alone in the cold October air. As I watched her go, I realized that the woman I'd married 18 years ago, the woman I'd fallen in love with, had been gone for a long time. I was just finally ready to admit it. My phone buzzed with a text from Sully. "How'd it go in court?" "Better than expected," I replied. "Want to grab a beer?" "Always. Giuseppe's." "Perfect." As I drove toward the restaurant, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Hope. The worst was behind me now. Or so I thought. I was wrong about the worst being behind me. Monica and Ethan weren't going quietly into the night, and what happened next taught me that desperate people do desperate things. It started with my friends. Monica had always been the social coordinator in our marriage, maintaining relationships with other couples in our neighborhood and social circle. I'd assumed that when people learned the truth about the affair, they'd naturally side with the wronged party. I was naive. The first sign of trouble came when Tom and Jennifer Walsh canceled our usual Friday night dinner plans. "Something came up," Jennifer said when I called to confirm. "Rain check?" The next week, it was Dave and Susan Martinez, then the Johnsons, then the Kellys. By the end of October, my social calendar was emptier than a red-eye flight to Omaha. I ran into Jennifer Walsh at the grocery store and decided to find out what was happening. "Jennifer, hey, how are things?" She looked uncomfortable, glancing around like she was planning an escape route. "Oh, hi, Jake. Fine. Everything's fine. We should reschedule that dinner soon. I know things have been crazy with the divorce and all, but, Jake, I have to ask. Is it true what Monica said about you hiring private investigators to follow her and freezing her bank accounts?" "I hired an investigator to document her affair, yes, and the accounts were frozen by court order after we discovered she'd been stealing money." "Why?" Jennifer's expression suggested she'd already made up her mind about my guilt. "It just seems so vindictive. Monica's going through a really hard time right now. She lost her job, her car got repossessed, she's living in that tiny apartment. Meanwhile, you're still in the house, still flying, still collecting your paycheck. Jennifer, she was cheating on me for months. She stole money from her company and from our joint accounts. She lied to everyone, including you. People make mistakes, Jake. Marriage is hard work. Maybe if you'd been home more, paid more attention to what she needed." I stared at this woman I'd known for 8 years, someone I'd considered a close friend, and realized that Monica's version of events had taken root. In her telling, I was the villain, the cold, absent husband who'd driven his wife into another man's arms and then destroyed her life out of spite. "So, you believe her story?" "I believe that there are two sides to every story, and Monica's side is pretty compelling." I left the grocery store without buying anything. That evening, I called Sully. "They're all turning on me," I told him. "Every couple we knew, every friend we had in common, Monica's painted me as some kind of monster." "What did you expect, Jake? She's had 18 years to build relationships with these people. You think they're going to abandon her because she made a mistake?" "A mistake? She had an affair, Sully. She stole money. She lied to everyone. And you destroyed her life in response. I'm on your side, but I can see how it looks from the outside." That weekend, things got worse. I was mowing the lawn when Dave Martinez walked over from his house across the street. Dave and I had been friends since we'd moved to the neighborhood. We'd helped each other with home improvement projects, shared beers during Cubs games, complained about property taxes and snow removal. "Jake, we need to talk." I shut off the mower. "Sure, Dave. What's up?" "Susan and I have been talking, and we think you need to hear this from a friend. The way you're handling this divorce, it's not right, man." "What way am I handling it?" "Come on. The private investigator getting Monica fired, having her car repossessed, that's cold, even for a divorce. Dave, she was having an affair. She was stealing money. I didn't get her fired. She got herself fired when her boss found out about the credit card fraud. Look, I get that you're hurt, but Monica's a good person who made a bad choice. You're destroying her over a mistake." "A mistake?" "Yeah, a mistake. People cheat, Jake. It happens. But most people work through it instead of going nuclear." I looked at this man I'd considered one of my closest friends and realized I was seeing him clearly for the first time. Dave Martinez was the kind of guy who thought cheating was just a mistake, something to be forgiven and forgotten. I wondered what that said about his own marriage. "So what are you telling me, Dave?" "I'm telling you that if you don't back off, you're going to lose more than just Monica. You're going to lose everyone." "Is that a threat?" "It's friendly advice from someone who cares about you." But his tone suggested the caring had limits, and I was approaching them fast. The breaking point came the following Tuesday. I was at Flanagan's Pub, a local sports bar where I'd been going for years, trying to watch the Bears game and forget about my imploding life. The place was crowded with the usual Tuesday night crowd. Guys from the neighborhood, a few off-duty cops, some construction workers unwinding after long days. I was halfway through my second beer when Tom Walsh, Jennifer's husband, walked in with 3 other guys from our social circle. They saw me immediately but took a table on the other side of the room. For an hour, I could feel them looking at me, talking in low voices, shooting glances in my direction. Finally, Tom walked over to my spot at the bar. "Jake? Tom, mind if I sit?" "Free country." Tom ordered a beer and sat down. For a minute, neither of us spoke. Then he turned to face me. "Monica came by the house yesterday to see Jennifer." "Okay." "She was crying, really crying. She told us what you did to her. What I did to her? The investigator, the lawyers, getting her fired. She's broke, Jake. Living in a studio apartment above that Chinese restaurant on Main Street. She can barely afford groceries. Tom, she was having an affair. She was stealing money. What did you expect me to do? I expected you to act like a man instead of a vindictive child. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Tom Walsh was calling me a vindictive child for refusing to be a doormat. A man? What's manly about letting your wife cheat on you and steal your money? A man forgives. A man works to save his marriage instead of destroying it for revenge. Forgives? She was screwing another guy in cheap motels, Tom. She was stealing from her company and lying to everyone we know. What exactly should I forgive? Tom's voice rose, and conversations around us began to quiet as people turned to listen. She made a mistake. One mistake, and you're destroying her life over it. One mistake? I stood up, my own voice getting louder. It wasn't one mistake, Tom. It was months of lies, months of deception, months of her looking me in the eye and lying about where she was, what she was doing, who she was with. So you hired a private investigator to stalk her? I hired an investigator to find out the truth. You got her fired from her job? She got herself fired when her boss found out she was stealing. You're having her car repossessed? The car she couldn't afford without the money she was stealing? Yeah, that got repossessed. By now, the entire bar was listening. Tom's 3 friends had moved closer, forming a semicircle around us. The bartender was watching nervously, probably calculating when to call the cops. You know what your problem is, Jake, Tom said, his face red with anger. You think you're better than everyone else, flying around the country, looking down on the rest of us with our normal jobs and normal problems. But when your perfect little life falls apart, you can't handle it like a normal person. You have to go scorched earth. Normal? You think cheating and stealing is normal? I think marriage is hard work, and sometimes people make mistakes. I think a real man would fight for his marriage instead of hiring lawyers and private investigators. A real man? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Tom, let me ask you something. If you came home and found Jennifer in bed with another guy, what would you do? I'd try to understand why it happened. I'd work to save my marriage. Bullshit. Excuse me? I said bullshit. You'd be just as angry as I am. You'd want answers. You'd want justice. Justice or revenge? The question hung in the air between us. Around the bar, 24 men were watching our confrontation like it was a sporting event. I could feel their judgment, their disapproval, their certainty that I was the villain in this story. Maybe both, I said finally. Maybe Monica deserves both? Tom shook his head. You know what, Jake? We used to be friends, good friends, but I don't know who you are anymore. This angry, bitter person, this isn't the Jake Hawthorne I knew. The Jake Hawthorne you knew was married to a woman who loved him. That Jake Hawthorne doesn't exist anymore. No, he doesn't, and that's the real tragedy here. Tom walked back to his table. His friends followed, shooting me disgusted looks. Within minutes, they'd paid their tab and left. I sat alone at the bar, nursing my beer and trying to process what had just happened. The bartender, a guy named Mickey who'd been serving me drinks for 3 years, finally spoke up. Rough night? Getting rougher. For what it's worth, I think you're getting a raw deal. My ex-wife cheated on me, too. I know how it feels. Thanks, Mickey. But Jake? You might want to think about what Tom said, about the anger. I looked at him. What do you mean? I mean, anger's like alcohol. A little bit makes you feel better. Too much destroys everything you touch. I finished my beer and left a 20 on the bar. As I walked to my car, I realized that Mickey was right about one thing. I was angry. Angrier than I'd ever been in my life. But I wasn't sure I wanted to stop being angry. Anger was fuel, and I had a long way to fly before this was over. The next morning, I called Carmen Rodriguez. I want to expand our investigation, I told her. I want to know everything about Monica and Ethan. Every detail, every secret, every vulnerability. Jake, you've already got enough evidence to win your divorce. What more do you need? I need leverage. These people think they can destroy my reputation and walk away clean. They're wrong. Carmen was quiet for a long moment. This is about more than the divorce now, isn't it? Yeah, I said. It is. Okay, but Jake, be careful. When you start down this road, it's hard to find your way back. I hung up the phone and looked around my empty house. My marriage was over. My friends were gone. My reputation was in ruins. Monica and Ethan had taken everything that mattered to me. Now it was my turn to take something from them. Carmen's expanded investigation revealed more than I'd bargained for. Monica and Ethan hadn't just been having an affair, They'd been planning a future together, complete with a business partnership that involved some creative accounting practices. "Your wife and her boyfriend have been setting up a property development company," Carmen explained, spreading documents across her desk. "Grant was going to provide the fitness expertise. Monica was going to handle the real estate side. They were planning to build luxury fitness resorts." "With what money?" "That's where it gets interesting. Grant's been skimming from his gym memberships, setting up fake corporate accounts, inflating equipment costs. Monica was doing the same thing with her real estate commissions. Plus, she'd been steering clients toward properties where she could collect double commissions through shell companies. I studied the financial records. The scope of their fraud was staggering, easily 6 figures, possibly more. "This goes way beyond adultery," I said. "Way beyond. This is federal fraud territory, mail fraud, wire fraud, tax evasion. If the FBI got hold of this, they'd both go to prison. For a long time." I sat back in my chair, processing the implications. Monica and Ethan hadn't just betrayed their spouses. They'd been running a criminal enterprise. The affair was just the personal side of a much larger scheme. "There's more," Carmen continued. "Lena Grant isn't as innocent as she appears. She's been hiding assets from the divorce proceedings. Her family's auto dealership has been laundering money through fake car sales. The whole family is dirty." "So everyone's a criminal?" "Pretty much, which gives you some interesting options." That evening, I sat in my empty house, staring at the evidence Carmen had compiled. I had enough information to destroy everyone involved: Monica, Ethan, even Lena. I could send them all to prison, bankrupt their families, ruin their lives completely. The question was, did I want to? My phone rang. Sully's name appeared on the screen. "Jake, you need to come down to Flanagan's, now." "Why?" "Just come. Trust me." I found Sully at the bar, nursing a beer and looking grim. The place was crowded with the usual Tuesday night crowd, but something felt different. Conversations were quieter, more intense. People kept glancing at me as I walked in. "What's going on?" I asked. "Monica was here an hour ago," Sully said, "with some of your old friends. They were planning something." "Planning what?" "An intervention. They want to confront you about your destructive behavior. Tom Walsh is organizing it. They're going to your house tonight." I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. "An intervention?" "They think you've lost your mind, gone off the deep end. They want to stage some kind of group confrontation to make you see reason." "Reason?" "Their version of reason, which involves you apologizing to Monica, dropping the divorce proceedings, and going to marriage counseling." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "They want me to apologize to Monica?" "They think she's the victim here, Jake. They think you're the problem." I looked around the bar at the faces I'd known for years: neighbors, acquaintances, people I'd considered friends. Now they were looking at me like I was a dangerous animal that needed to be contained. "How many people are involved in this intervention?" 6 couples, maybe more. They're meeting at your house at 8 o'clock. I checked my watch. It was 7:30. "Sully, I need you to do me a favor." "Name it." "Go to your car and get that digital camera we used at the motel. Then meet me at my house. Park across the street and start recording when people arrive." "Jake, what are you planning?" "I'm planning to give them exactly what they want: a confrontation. But it's going to be on my terms, not theirs." I drove home through the dark November streets, my mind racing. For months, I'd been playing defense, reacting to Monica's lies and betrayals, trying to salvage something from the wreckage of my marriage. But now I realized I'd been thinking about this all wrong. I wasn't the defendant in this story. I was the prosecutor. When I arrived at my house, cars were already parked along the street. Tom and Jennifer Walsh's Honda Civic, Dave and Susan Martinez's SUV, the Johnsons' pickup truck, the Kellys' minivan. My former friends had come in force, ready to stage their intervention. I parked in my driveway and sat in my car for a moment, watching them gather on my front porch. They looked nervous but determined, like parents preparing to confront a troubled teenager. Monica was with them, playing her role as the wounded victim perfectly. I got out of my car and walked toward the group. Conversation stopped as I approached. "Well," I said, "this is unexpected. To what do I owe the pleasure?" Tom Walsh stepped forward, apparently the designated spokesman. "Jake, we need to talk, all of us, about what's been happening." "What's been happening?" "This vendetta against Monica, this need for revenge. It has to stop." I looked at the faces surrounding me, people I'd known for years, people I'd trusted, people I'd considered friends. They were all staring at me with a mixture of concern and disapproval. "Vendetta?" I said. "Is that what we're calling it?" "What would you call it?" Jennifer Walsh asked. "You've destroyed Monica's life over a mistake. A mistake. I nodded slowly. That's an interesting way to put it. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder where I'd stored copies of Carmen's evidence. Photos, documents, financial records, everything I needed to tell the real story. Before we start this intervention, I said, I think you all should know what Monica's mistake actually involved. I held up my phone, showing the first photo, Monica and Ethan entering the motel room. This is Monica with Ethan Grant. The affair started 6 months ago, not recently like she's been telling you. I swiped to the next image, bank records showing Monica's diverted commissions. This shows Monica stealing money from our joint account to fund her affair. She opened a secret bank account and diverted over $30,000. Another swipe, credit card statements. This shows Monica using her company credit card for personal expenses, hotel rooms, expensive dinners, lingerie, all charged to Premier Properties. The group was silent now, studying the evidence I was presenting. But wait, I continued, there's more. I showed them the documents Carmen had uncovered about the property development scheme. Monica and Ethan weren't just having an affair, they were planning to start a business together. A business funded by money they were stealing from their employers and their spouses. Dave Martinez spoke up. Jake, even if this is all true... If it's true, I interrupted. Dave, these are bank records, credit card statements, legal documents. What part of this do you think might not be true? Okay, it's true, but that doesn't justify what you've done to her. What I've done to her? I looked around the group. What exactly have I done to Monica? You hired a private investigator to stalk her, Susan Martinez said. I hired an investigator to document her adultery and theft. That's called gathering evidence. You got her fired from her job, Jennifer Walsh added. Her boss fired her when he discovered she was stealing from the company. I had nothing to do with that. You had her car repossessed, Tom Walsh said. The car was repossessed when she couldn't make the payments without the money she was stealing. Again, not my doing. Monica finally spoke up. Jake, please, can't we work this out? I made mistakes, but we can fix this. I looked at my wife of 18 years, this woman I'd loved and trusted, and felt something cold settle in my chest. Fix this? Monica, you didn't make mistakes. You made choices, calculated, deliberate choices. For months, you looked me in the eye and lied. You stole money from our accounts. You used your company's credit card to fund your affair. You planned a future with another man while pretending to love me. I do love you, she said, tears starting to flow. I never stopped loving you. No, I said quietly. You don't. You love the security I provided. You love the house, the lifestyle, the respectability, but you don't love me. If you loved me, you wouldn't have been able to do what you did. I looked around at the group of people who'd come to confront me. And all of you, I continued, you came here tonight to stage an intervention, to make me see reason, to convince me to forgive Monica and save my marriage. But not one of you asked me how I'm doing. Not one of you acknowledged that I'm the victim here. Not one of you considered that maybe, just maybe, I have a right to be angry. The group exchanged uncomfortable glances. Instead, you decided that I'm the problem, that I'm being vindictive and cruel, that I should just forgive and forget and pretend none of this happened. I put my phone away and looked directly at Tom Walsh. Tom, you asked me what kind of man I am. You said a real man would fight for his marriage. Well, let me tell you what kind of man I am. I'm the kind of man who believes that actions have consequences. I'm the kind of man who thinks that when you betray someone's trust, you should face the results of that betrayal. I turned to Monica. You wanted a new life with Ethan? You've got it. You wanted excitement and passion and all the things you felt were missing from our marriage? Well, now you can have them without the burden of being married to a boring airline pilot. Monica was crying harder now. Jake, please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you are, Monica. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry there were consequences. You're sorry your plan didn't work out the way you wanted, but you're not sorry you did it. If you could go back and do it all over again, the only thing you'd change is not getting caught. The truth of that statement hung in the air. Monica's tears continued, but she didn't deny it. I looked around at the group one more time. This intervention is over, I said. You all need to leave my property. Now. Jake, Tom Walsh started, we're just trying to help. No, I interrupted. You're trying to make yourselves feel better about choosing sides in a situation you don't understand. You've decided Monica is the victim because it's easier than acknowledging that someone you trusted is capable of this kind of betrayal. I walked toward my front door, then turned back. But here's what's going to happen next. Monica and Ethan's financial crimes are going to be reported to the FBI. The evidence Carmen uncovered shows wire fraud, mail fraud, and tax evasion. They're both looking at federal prison time. Monica's face went white. Jake, you can't. I can, and I will. You wanted to play games, Monica? You wanted to lie and cheat and steal? Well, games have winners and losers, and you just lost. I went inside my house and locked the door behind me. Through the window, I watched my former friends disperse, their intervention a complete failure. Monica stood on my lawn for a long time, crying and staring at the house we'd shared for so many years. Finally, she got into Tom Walsh's car, and they drove away. I poured myself a scotch and sat in my living room, surrounded by the silence of my empty house. My marriage was over. My friendships were destroyed. My life as I'd known it was finished. But for the first time in months, I felt something approaching peace. The truth was finally out. The lies were exposed. Justice was coming. My phone buzzed with a text from Sully. Got it all on camera. You did good, Jake. I smiled and raised my glass in a toast to the empty room. Here's to new beginnings, I said aloud. 3 weeks later, FBI agents arrested Monica and Ethan on federal fraud charges. The story made the front page of the local newspaper. Local realtor and gym owner charged in elaborate fraud scheme. The article detailed their crimes, their affair, and their plans to flee the country with stolen money. It painted a picture of two people who'd thought they were smarter than everyone else, who'd believed they could lie and steal and cheat without consequences. They were wrong. Monica was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. Ethan got 6 years. Their dreams of a new life together became a nightmare of orange jumpsuits and prison cells. As for me, I kept flying. I kept my house, I kept my dignity, and I learned something valuable about the difference between friends and acquaintances. Real friends stand by you when your world falls apart. Everyone else just pretends they do until it's inconvenient. 6 months after the sentencing, I ran into Tom Walsh at the grocery store. He looked embarrassed, ashamed, like he wanted to disappear into the produce section. Jake, he said quietly, I owe you an apology. No, I replied. You don't owe me anything, Tom. You made your choice. You chose to believe Monica's lies over my truth. That's on you, not me. I was wrong. Yes, you were. But being wrong isn't a crime. Being willfully blind is just human nature. I walked away without another word. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. And honestly, I wasn't interested in trying. These days, I have new friends. Better friends. People who understand that loyalty isn't conditional and trust isn't negotiable. Monica writes me letters from prison sometimes. Long, rambling apologies full of regret and promises to be better. I don't read them anymore. I just forward them to my attorney, who files them away in case they're needed for future legal proceedings. Ethan's fitness centers all closed within 6 months of his arrest. His wife Lena divorced him and moved back to her family's city with their children. The last I heard, she was teaching at a private school in Connecticut and had no intention of ever returning to Illinois. As for me, I'm still flying, still living in the same house, still getting up every morning and going to work and coming home to an empty house that feels more like home than it ever did when Monica lived here. People sometimes ask me if I have any regrets about how I handled the situation, if I think I was too harsh, too vindictive, too unforgiving. The answer is no. Monica and Ethan made their choices. They chose to lie, to cheat, to steal, to betray the people who trusted them most. They chose to build their happiness on the foundation of other people's pain. I simply made sure their choices had consequences. And sometimes that's what justice looks like.